Warren charged me with telling the whole story. He asked me shortly after he was diagnosed with terminal cancer to write the book. And we talked about it on and off over the last year of his life. When he first asked me, we were still getting over the shock of the fact that he was going to die. So there's probably nothing I would have refused him. I didn't think very hard about what that meant. But as the year went on, he'd talk about things that it was important that he have included. And then a week before he died, he called me and said, "You're going to do this thing, right?" And I said, "Well, I guess so, Warren." And he said, "Well, if you do it, you've got to tell the whole truth, even the awful ugly parts, because that's the excitable boy who wrote them excitable songs." Those were his exact words. And I said, "Warren, I don't think I know what the whole truth is." And he laughed. And he laughed in a way that I hadn't heard him laugh in a while, because he'd been pretty sick. And he said, "Oh, you'll find out." And I did. Eddie Ponder. It was a local election, and it was all local people, yet here we were doing the benefit. We ended up at a party at Jill Ireland and Leon Uris's house. Also in Aspen, we went to some ghost town, and we were playing like bank robbers and cowboys, shooting our way in and out of this ghost town. Later, we went looking for Hunter Thompson. We didn't find him, but we hung out for hours at the Jerome waiting for him. We were convinced he belonged with us. He needed to join our party. Also in Aspen, Halloween occurred. There we are, 7 wackos from Los Angeles, and it was like being on acid. We were sitting in the bars, watching the Halloween costumes parading by the windows, and it was just surreal. Mohammed's radio was born that night, too. Warren saw this local guy who was developmentally disabled, dressed up like a sheik, with a transistor radio to his ear. I remember exactly the look on Warren's face watching that. Something changed, and what it was is he was making mental notes and writing Mohammed's radio in his head. This is from Mohammed's radio. "The sheriff's got his problems too. He will surely take them out on you. In walks the village idiot. His face is all aglow. He's been up all night listening to Mohammed's radio." He went down in my parents' basement that night and stayed up all night and wrote that song. For Warren, Aspen was kind of like a foreign country, like an island unto itself. And I think when we came, he would become whoever he fantasized he might be. We stayed with my parents, and Warren didn't ski and wouldn't dream of skiing, but he loved to take my father's parka and ski gloves and go sit on a bar stool next to people as they came off the slope, and no one questioned. I mean, everyone just assumed he was another skier too. And so he just engaged and, be a skier for a moment. So Aspen was kind of a fun place to come, and continued to be for him. He always seemed to be able to get a booking at the Wheeler Opera House, even when he was not doing so well other places. And of course, eventually he met Hunter, and so that became part of the lure coming to Aspen. A question I get asked a lot is why people kept coming back, because Warren did abuse relationships. He had a very caustic wit. He could, cut you off at the knees with a remark. But he also had another side. There was a part of Warren where there was always a kind of naive and innocent hurt child just under the surface. But there was also this genius. Warren's IQ was well above Einstein's, and he saw things with a sort of skewed perspective. He saw the underbelly of any situation, of any conversation, of any event that you might happen to witness together. The door was locked, and there was a bench outside, and he said, "Let's sit down." And just a little caveat, at one point when he couldn't get a record deal, we sold everything we owned and we went to Spain. And he played guitar on a bar stool, and I passed the hat, and that's how we lived. And he wrote a song during that time called "Old Girl," about us growing old and reminiscing and looking back, sitting on the front porch, looking back at our lives. And it never was recorded because we split up. But he would periodically over the years say, "Is it time yet, old girl?" As if we would one day do that. So we sat on this bench outside this chapel, and, you know, we're holding hands and just kind of crying and quiet. And I can't tell a story without crying. He said, "So we made it to the front porch, didn't we, old girl?" And, you know, that, so people say, "Why did you go back? What, you know, all the darkness, all the," you know, that's why. He pulled himself together and became not just the artist he wanted to be, you know, he had that muscle all along, but the father, the man, the grandfather that he never quite believed he could be, but came to terms with all that and was that in the end. And that's, I think, the Warren Zevon story.